It's victory.
Monday. It's not Victory Monday.
Just having a heart attack. Be about a baker's dozen for me, Bob.
Yeah, if you need mouth to mouth, that ain't it. Welcome back to the House That Alan Built, the video podcast. My name is Scott Kinmartin, and with me, as always,
Greg Vollmer.
And today we're going to discuss the last week's game, Bills versus the Titans. This week we're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins, and we're going to get into some predictions and some fantasy talk.
But first, we're going to do a cheers because the Bills got another victory.
Big dub.
Big dubs.
Dub.
My God, it's starting. It's just, is it not fun watching this team do what they do week in and week out?
I thought that our predictions last week might have been a little homer, but we were both wrong. So let's get into those first. The Bills win 41-7, and that score was the score with almost 4 minutes left in the third quarter. When the end of the third quarter came about, I'm like, is that the end of the game? We have another quarter.
We took the Titans behind the bleachers, took their lunch money, tell them to go call mom to get some more money for lunch because we're taking that, and then we beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, so your prediction was 41-17?
Yep.
And
Yours
mine was
30-17.
30-17. So you actually nailed the 41,
Yep.
and you gave the Titans an extra 10 points. Either way, they were 9.5-point favorites, and we still came on top by what? Let's do the math. 34?
I mean,
34.
I knew that we weren't going to be playing our starters for almost 13 minutes. And, I mean, I knew that Ryan Tannehill was going to get pulled with 3 minutes to go in the third quarter.
But what you didn't
I
know,
totally called that.
What you didn't know was that the Bills were going to stop Derrick Henry. 13 carries, 25 yards. So
we absolutely stifled him.
he had one touchdown, which was the only touchdown of the game, and it was like a 2-yard leap into the end zone, whatever. And at one point, it was 7-7, just like with the Rams game week 1. It was 10-10 going into halftime. This time, I think it was either 10-7 or maybe 17-7. Either way, the game was within reach.
At halftime?
Yeah.
It was 17-7. Yeah.
So
yeah.
We went into the second half, and we picked up where we left off. If not, we stepped on the gas and we took it to them.
Remember last year when they were talking about, man, the Stephon Diggs-Allen connection is not quite like what it was his first year with them together. And
couldn't be stronger.
And then this year, it's just like it's like a rejuvenation, as if, we all know that their connection off the field's always been good. Yeah. Last year, Diggs' numbers weren't quite as well as the year before. And now it's just like this year, they're just hitting the ground running.
What's more impressive is that Diggs was on man coverage, right? Now, they couldn't double-team him, even without Gabe Davis being in the game. Stephon Diggs was just an animal. I want to say he was 12 catches out of 15 targets.
Good luck man coverage against that man at times when he's on and Allen's on.
148 yards, 3 touchdowns on 15 targets.
Man, shout out to Bills Mafia for repping like we knew you were going to for our home opener. And how awesome was it to see Marv Levy and Jim Kelly get y'all riled up before that opening kick?
You know, the line that you like to, the quote you like to use.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
You know, when they did...
Tip of the cap to Marv
When
Levy.
they did Legends of the Game and it was Jim Kelly, nobody knew that Marv Levy was coming into town. Actually, he didn't even know until a few days before, and he flew in from Chicago, and Jim Kelly started the conversation. Marv Levy walks up, uproar of 60-plus thousand people, and then the fact that Marv started it and the audience finished the quote shows you how legendary this 90s franchise was.
And just the fact that, the dedication, a lot of fans of their team couldn't tell you the coach from 5 years ago, let alone our coach from the 90s.
Yeah, I mean,
late 80s, 90s.
Yeah, he came over from, the Oilers?
And he still obviously holds a special place in all of our hearts as Bills fans.
Chiefs?
He's an absolute legend. Man, the dude's... just to see him still ticking and doing strong.
97.
At 97 years old, man.
I don't know how much more time. He did look a little frail, but it was great to see him out there. The fact that he knew where he was, he said, before every game, I had this quote, and then he said it, and it was just chills.
He's got all his faculties about him, and
yeah.
He looked great. Him and Kelly, seeing both those guys still alive is a blessing.
And that was his first flight since COVID started. So it was nice to see him come to Buffalo. So let's get into the game. The Bills started with the ball again. So for the second straight week, marched down the field, scored again. 7-0. And it was nice to see that Reggie Gilliam got a TD.
Yeah, and you know who also thought it was nice? That dude that won on a small little wager
parlay.
that he did.
Yeah,
he bet that Reggie Gilliam would be the first to score for the Bills on offense.
It was a 100-1 payout. So he bet $95 among 3 different bets
to win $9,500.
$9,500.
Have yourself a day, sir. Cheers
Seriously.
to you. My goodness.
You know, he had some moves out there. I know we signed him. He was undrafted. I mean, fullbacks aren't like.
I threw a couple. I was playing someone online, kicking the shit out of him in Madden earlier today, and I threw a couple to Reggie Gilliam in the flat, and man, I made a couple people miss. Had some, decent yardage on a few chunk plays. Shout out Reggie Gilliam.
In real life, he made a couple guys miss. If you look at it, he makes the catch and he bounces backwards and rolls to the outside, and just walks into the end zone. To see our fullback, who was undrafted, not only make the team but actually have a spot on the active roster for 2 weeks in a row, and he's out there. He's got a prominent role.
And you know what my favorite part was? Not just because we opened the game with a touchdown, but my favorite part was watching Allen trail him just with his hand in the air, just smiling, just following him as he's watching him.
Yeah.
Allen's, first of all, just shows how much Allen respects his team around him, and they respect him, because that's leadership, right? Yeah. Is like, he not only does Allen love to celebrate when he scores or throws a touchdown pass, but he loves to see his other guys get involved.
You see that photo of Stephon Diggs catching the ball, and Allen's on an airplane, like,
just
what a celebration.
Just having fun like he's on the playground, right? And that's why we love him. One of many reasons.
When Diggs was interviewed, his first few touchdowns, he had, some different dances, right? And then he was like, yeah, you never know when you need him. So I used him early on, and he ended up having 3 touchdowns. Allen was 26 of 38 for 317 yards and 4 touchdowns.
What's up with his accuracy and his completion percentage? When is he going to get that thing up, man? Golly.
So first week, he had a bad throw to Crowder that ended up being picked. The Isaiah McKenzie pick from week 1 wasn't really his fault. Could it have been better? Sure, but no turnovers.
And shout out to the O-line. They continue to do well. Only gave up 1 sack.
Yeah, and that one pancake block by our snowman.
Mr. Dion Dawkins just making grown men look like children on that run block. Unbelievable.
Diggs and Allen are the 2 highest graded offensive players in the league through 2 weeks.
You gotta love it.
Both above 90%.
You gotta love it.
Yeah.
You love it when a plan comes together.
We talked last week about James Cook possibly increasing his role after that first touch fumble. And he led the team with 11 carries for 53 yards. And he had 1 run that was 33 yards.
Had a nice little breakaway at the end.
It was kind of garbage time, but you know what?
Garbage time for sure.
They still had their starters out there at that point, and he looked quick. If he can do that. Now, Allen is still kind of struggling with his screens. He had one that he missed to Kumaro. It dribbled in front of him. And that would have been a heck of a play, but Kumaro had also a good game in place of Gabriel Davis.
Shout out touchdown, Jesus.
He's normally on special teams, and he's obviously a backup. He's a reserve wide receiver, and they started him.
And we needed him.
Yeah, we did.
Davis out. We needed someone to step up, and Kumaro, Kumaro had that awesome catch to keep the drive alive on that very first drive. And between Allen, which was his only carry of the game, where he did another awesome... Just perfectly timed. He knew the defender was going low. He did what he always does and went high. Did a little somersault.
That and then his arm kept him up.
Kept himself up to roll over to get the extra yard that ultimately got us the first down. And then he hit Kumaro, and that was just huge to keep the drive alive. I mean, think about just the little moments of the game like that make such a big difference. We wanted to score first so that you could get the momentum going, and that's what we did. And little things like that could have derailed the drive, or the old Bills might have had some things to derail. It's like Allen's like, I'm not going to let it happen.
And clearly Dorsey got the memo from the Bills beat writers and the fans that Allen can't be getting hit like that 10, 12 times a game. So they played, with him in the pocket for the most part. He's really good on the rollouts. The rushing game did kind of suffer without Allen. I said that James Cook
Singletary was still effective when he got it.
He had 1 or 2 really good runs. Moss had a really good run. Cook had that really good run. I mean, the depth is there. They don't really need to utilize him. If they can't stop him in the air.
Motor got things going on that first drive with a nice little chunk play to begin the series. And I don't know. I think I feel like I've said it every week now. Shout out to Motor. He's such a quiet but effective leader on this offense, and I love it. It took me a while to warm up to him, and at times I'm like, is this the guy? Like, is this our RB1? I love every time he has the ball. I love watching him.
Yeah.
He's solid.
I think
He's
Moss
shifty.
and Singletary are both good about just one cut. Yeah, he like jiggles, wiggle, but he doesn't
Wiggle.
He doesn't really go more than a yard. Where some of these guys are like, watch Kyler Murray, right? Extend that 2-point conversion. He's going every which way, and he's making people look like they're going a third of the speed.
But that's one of I feel like one of Singletary's strengths though is that he can do a step forward to take 2 steps back, only to then get 10 steps forward.
Yeah.
He's elusive.
That's more Tyreek Hill. But yeah, no, I think Singletary.
Who's Tyreek Hill? Are we going against him at some point?
Yeah, we'll get there for sure. We definitely are this week. But I have Knox had 4 catches for 41 yards. It was nice to see him have 5 targets and have a role in the offense. You knew it was going to happen.
He had a chance at a touchdown. It was a little high.
Yeah. Yep. And there was a chance when Allen rolled left, and it looked like he had McKenzie in the flat, but then he threw across his body, Diggs, touchdown. And that could have been Knox as well. I mean, this team is just loaded.
And again, that goes to show the progression between the years that Allen has shown in just these last 2 years.
Patience and check down.
And as he's rolling to the left, he's reading and he sees that the defense is overcommitted.
Shifting to McKenzie.
And he knew, because of his chemistry with Diggs, that Diggs was going to come towards him in the end zone, and he immediately just shifted. Phew!
You'll see Diggs kind of put his hand up or out. If he's out, he's saying, throw it in front of me. If he's up, he's saying, just put it on me. And that's the chemistry. I mean, year 3. I just can't believe it was that. I mean, you knew that they were going to focus on Diggs with Gabe being out, because the benefit of having Gabe Davis, a true number 2 who can really shift anywhere, is that it kind of spreads the defenders out, and then you don't really focus on one, because if you focus on Diggs, Davis is likely open. But this time it was like Kumaro, right? We like him, but there's a reason why we were able to pick him up.
Aaron Rodgers likes him too.
Aaron Rodgers does like him. He was pissed when they cut him.
How fun is it watching this Bills team play football week in and week out right now?
The fact that when we're winning big, and that's a continuation from last year. I think they even had a stat during the game. It was like 10 of their last 10 games in a row, when they win, they're winning by double digits, maybe even a dozen. And once again, they do it.
Some say, some that follow the NFL closely, you've got some that say style points don't matter in the NFL, or there's no such thing. But if style points are a thing, well, we're going down the runway during the fashion show these last 2 weeks, because between the bright lights in LA and then the home opener against what some thought was going to be a team that was going to be contending for the 1 seed in the AFC, we've absolutely been dominant in all 3 phases.
Yeah. And even though Kumaro got out there, it was nice to see that they actually used Shakir. They elevated Shakir, and he had 2 targets.
In a Bills uniform.
Didn't get a catch, but it was a bad underneath throw to him on the inside shoulder. I want to say that was from Keenum, not Allen. And anyway, it's nice to see him up there. And maybe he won't be up there more than half the games this year.
Get him warmed up, right? Next man up if we need him later on or at any point.
Well, we're having injuries. Yeah, we got banged up after this one. And it's a slightly shorter week because we played on Monday night, and now we're playing Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern in Miami on
Squish
CBS.
the fish! Let's go, Mafia! Everyone that's going to Miami, travel safe. Can't wait to see you in the stands.
Bills travel. When I lived in Orlando, I would go down to the Miami games every other year. And the stands were probably 40 to 50% Bills. They're not really loyal to a team like the Bills are. Like, we'll stay there. These guys at halftime, you can see the red and blue all over the stands. It's awesome.
Well, sushi is going to be on the menu for those traveling down to...
For sure. And we'll get
South
into our matchup with them, but I want to cover a few more things here. We did have a 4th and 1 from the Titans 31.
We've talked about a lot of positives. Touch on some negatives.
Yeah, I mean, Allen had the sugar rush. Allen, 1 play, maybe 2, where he's just trying to force it. It's 4th and 1 on the Titans 31, where we could have scored or at least gotten that 1 yard. This is where Allen would have been crucial to get that 1 yard for a first down, move the chains. Instead, we turn it over on downs, which is not pretty.
And it was right after we had wasted a timeout out on a challenge that I thought McDermott shouldn't have gone for.
And that's when he should have used the timeout, was on this, because they
Because
rushed
they
it
were-
down to 0-0.
Yeah, they were clearly flustered. They weren't ready for the play, and it showed because Allen had to just do a backyard play that blew up in his face.
And Shakir actually screwed up his block. I think, you start thinking about what you have to do, and then the snap happens, and you're like, oh, and he missed one step, and they got right in there on Allen. He tried to throw it away, and it was tipped and almost intercepted. So that was the offense. Really, that's the only negatives we could come up with. I mean, another great
and the
play
injuries.
calling
I mean, I
for
think it
Dorsey.
goes without saying, just our overall health.
Yeah.
We have been in
But
these
offense was fine. I mean,
Yeah,
Morse
yeah.
got banged up a little bit, but really it was the defense that really got banged up.
Hyde, Dane Jackson.
Yeah.
Thank God he's okay.
Yeah.
But we are getting hit with a little injury bug, I dare say, over these last couple of weeks. But it's nothing that
Every
we can.
team.
It's nothing we can't overcome, but it is still concerning nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is 100% injury rate. It's just whether you can play through it or not. And
we've got the depth that some teams don't have. So
True. And for the defense, we did only have 2 sacks, and one of them was not Von Miller, but Greg Rousseau again.
Yep.
So
Take over, big man. Take over.
He's looking good. And then they had Tremaine Edmonds on a perfectly timed blitz.
Beautiful.
Not only did he have a sack,
Untouched.
he had a pass defense, he had a couple solo tackles. He looked good. So for those of you that are still questioning, are they going to re-sign him? Are they going to do like, he's playing solid. And I mean,
He really is.
He's such a big dude and so unique for a defense in the middle. When you've got him and you've got someone like Milano, a converted safety, who's just bulky. I mean, he had some really nice tackles, and he had a pick six.
And a pick six.
The
His
pick
first
six.
of his career.
First
Shout
of
out
his
to
career.
Milano getting that. That was fun.
And on that
Putting
play,
the icing on the cake.
Jordan Phillips pulled up like he might have pulled a hammy. Hopefully it's not too bad, but he's been limited or not practicing this week so far. So Taron Johnson had a strong performance in the slot, per usual. We had Elam and Bernard playing because after Dane Jackson had a scare. So there was some friendly fire there where Jackson was in on a tackle and he was laying out like this, and Tremaine came from the other side. It was like a pop, which in slow-mo it looks like, why did he do that? But it happens, and his neck bent all the way back. It looked really scary. I mean,
and thankfully for Edmonds and for Jackson, everyone's okay.
Yeah, so
and for the whole team,
I didn't realize
it
this.
shook them obviously
For sure. I mean, they brought the ambulance out right away, and they took Dane, and it was scary. But I saw when he was hit and he rolled on. He was on his side. That he moved his leg, so I was like, okay, he's moving his extremities. He's not paralyzed. But come to find out, he goes to the hospital. They did not need him overnight. They came in. They went through the tests. They were all negative, and he was at practice. He was at practice yesterday today on the sidelines. And what about was it? No, it was Hyde that tipped the ball to Poyer, and Poyer intercepted
what a play.
it. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Hyde. How cool is it that we not only have the kind of chemistry that's been built on the offensive side with Allen and Diggs, but on the defensive side, you have this chemistry that's been built between what could be argued as the best safety tandem in the league. I mean, how awesome
there's no
is
argument anymore.
Micah Hyde tips it, and he knew that if he tipped it, he could potentially give a play.
The fact that both safeties were on the same side, they
Poyer.
knew to lean over that way. I mean, they're in the right place at the
So
right time.
awesome.
I mean, in football with turnovers and fumbles, the ball bounces in odd ways because the football is an odd shape, right? And good teams will be opportunistic and make more plays. And that's what happened. Just like when Sam Martin was finally used.
We finally had to punt.
We said over under 1.5 or 2.
Yeah,
whatever,
over under
and,
1. We said over 1. And
yeah, and he had 3. 3 punts where the first punt wasn't until late in the third quarter, I want to say, or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was in the third.
I was like, no, don't, just go for it. I didn't care if it was midfield on our own 30. I just wanted to keep that stat up for another game. But it was a good choice because literally his first punt had a ton of hang time, and it caused a fumble, which Dotson got right near the sideline, and we came away with the ball. We actually gained yardage.
He averaged, 51 on his 3 punts?
48.3, but he had a
almost 50.
56-yarder, and that was, I mean, they were all good.
Very solid
He's
punts.
known for his high ball, and that hang time matters, and when you're only used a couple times, utilize it. I mean, he did have to hold on 5 extra points.
Bills Mafia
And 2
needs
field
you
goals?
be reminded, this isn't the Brian Moorman days anymore where we could have spent like 20 minutes talking about our punting situation. But how awesome is it
I
that...
loved Moorman.
I know,
but he was used.
He was used all the time.
120
That's the point.
He was our leading guy.
He was the guy going to the Pro Bowl for us, not a quarterback or a running back or a wide receiver like good teams you would want. And I love Moorman to death, but there was a reason he was highlighted is because there was no one else for so many years to really look at.
Yeah, that hit that Nate Clemens had on Tom Brady is very similar to the Pro Bowl where I saw Moorman get his butt smeared by Sean Taylor.
Oh, I'll always remember
Rest
that.
in peace. Yeah. Malik Willis came in after Tannehill threw 2 picks, and Tannehill was just off. So they brought in the young guy. Basically, they threw in the towel, and we started subbing out some of our defenders, but we still had some guys out there. It was a little questionable why you would have some starters out there when you're playing against a second team. I know you want to keep them down to 7 points, but I don't know. I kind of question why some of those starters were still out there, because then you had Milano, who ended up with a stinger, but is back at practice limited. I just wouldn't take that chance. As soon as you're up by that much, you do what you do with Allen. You put him in his cap, have him sit out, and you let the depth play so they have experience.
It's too long of a season, and we have too much clearly riding on this year to take any kind of chance. Whenever we get the opportunity, really the luxury to rest, then you rest.
It was nice to see, we mentioned Treylon Burks, that we were going to be facing him. He was like their only highlight.
That was really, I hate to say it for Titans fans, and I'm sorry for those that decided to spend their hard-earned money to come watch that ass kicking in person, but Treylon Burks was the only really bright spot. Other than that, it was kind of a depressing night to be a Titans fan, and I've been there. We've been there as Bills fans. Yeah. There were some injuries for the Titans. Your starting quarterback gets pulled before the third's even over. But Treylon Burks did have some flash plays that maybe shows why they decided to take a chance on him in the first round.
Former Bill Robert Woods had 4 receptions for like 48 yards, which
I
honestly only saw like 1 or 2. I know we were watching at the sports bar. Shout out to the Cheerful Bullpen.
We were at the Cheerful Bullpen.
Official Bills Backers Bar in Portland.
Yeah, right across the street from my apartment.
You know what they do right? After you score a touchdown, you do the shout song. They run around. The owner of the place runs around with this Bills 90s red helmet umbrella. And we just do the whole shout song. It just gets you so hyped. And considering we scored, 5 touchdowns and 2 field goals, it was just nonstop. And that feeling just never went away. I loved it. My favorite part probably, and I like Mike Vrabel, was seeing his reaction where he just puts his hands on his knees. And he's just like, at that point, he's like, we got our ass kicked.
There seems to be many themes here, but after 2 weeks, you have a theme of we're not only winning, we're embarrassing.
We have a top 2 offense and defense, and our special teams.
The biggest question I'm asking as we go into week 3 is, will that continue against what is starting to look like a hot and talented Miami team? And we're going to South Florida, where Allen historically has played his ass off.
Let's get into injuries, and we'll get into that game. So we know that Hyde had a hurt neck, Jackson had a hurt neck. They were both released. Jordan Phillips had injuries. Davis, Mitch Morse, Ed Oliver, Tim Settle were all limited, but they were at practice on Thursday. Knox was also limited, but appeared, to practice. And now that will carry over into week 3. We're a little, a little hurt, but we don't have to travel far. It's like from the northeast to the southeast, but it's, an hour and a half, a couple hours.
And I'm just excited because this opens division play, which is always the most intense weeks of the season.
It's one of our rivals, which really hasn't been much of a rivalry considering the Bills have won the last 7 games, and it hasn't even been close.
And isn't that interesting? The Bills have all this attention on them, and rightly so. They're backing it up on the field. But now you have the hype train going on the Dolphins, and now you've got this collision course in this young season in week 3. And now it's like, okay, Allen's got this perfect record damn near against the Dolphins, but holy cow, Tua came back in roaring fashion against the Ravens. And now it's like, okay, another litmus test comes on Sunday at 10 a.m. West Coast time, 1 p.m. East Coast time. Who's got the better team? We'll find out.
Well, the Bills are 6-point favorites right now, and some people are calling an upset. They're riding that high of 2-0 versus 2-0.
I know a lot of Dolphins fans are calling that upset, and we'll see. That's what's beautiful about the game is we'll find out who's the best team on Sunday.
Well, the Dolphins have won 7 games in a row at home, and 10 of their last 11. They're riding high there.
Juicy storylines.
Yeah, for real. And, the Mike McDaniels era starts out strong. He is definitely unconventional. He comes in with, a different outlook. He's getting what he can out of Tua. I mean, everyone was writing Tua off as this bust. But when you've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you've got two speedsters. If we talk about Madden ratings, we're talking 99 for Hill for speed and 97 for Waddle. Throw in a little Raheem Mostert for a 95 speed.
As long as he can stay healthy, he sure showed that he could be a legitimate running back for the Niners.
Well, there were some cold takes during the game where in the third quarter, somebody on Twitter said, I bet McDaniels wishes he had Fitzpatrick to bail Tua out again. And then Tua went from being down 28-3 to slinging it and coming back. They ended up winning 42-38, where they just needed a field goal to tie it up to go in overtime when it was 38-35. And they ended up throwing another touchdown to Waddle where I want to say Tyreek Hill had 190 yards and 2 touchdowns receiving. And Jalen Waddle had 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Tua finished like 38 of 50 or something for 469 yards. 6 touchdowns. If we rush him, there's no way he's throwing the ball 50 times, and there's no way he's throwing for 6 touchdowns.
I watched that fourth quarter of the Ravens-Dolphins game over again twice. And first and foremost, to Dolphins fans, Tua looked great in that fourth quarter. And he did come back, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. Now, Tyreek Hill was also as much a part of that, if not more than Tua, because he was absolutely torching those rookies in the secondary, and they had no answer for him. Absolutely none. They couldn't even get close to him when he got the ball from Tua. And Tua made a couple nice deep throws, but other than that, it's not like he was making these technical throws. It was literally just Tyreek getting open, and he had to just get it to him.
That was backyard ball. He actually took the ball, and you see him throwing it for everything he can.
Now, he has to really put all of his body into it.
He got 60 yards on the pass. It was a little short, but Hill still had everyone by like 6 yards, so he just waited, got it.
Now, and all the credit in the world to the entire Dolphins organization for that comeback, because it's no easy feat in the NFL. But don't forget about those other 3 quarters that were played in that game, and those other 3 quarters that I watched of Tua. He looked more like the Tua that's gotten a lot of criticism. He had some missed throws, some near picks. He was flustered in the pocket. So again, you gotta make sure you look at the big picture. It's easy to just look at that last chapter because that's what everyone remembers to get the win. But if our defense can wreak havoc, I will stand here next week and say I was wrong. But Tua's not going to do what he just did against the Ravens against us on Sunday. I guarantee it.
Last year, AJ Epinesa had a great game against Miami. He actually is the one that broke Tua's ribs or separated him. So if we can get to him, he will be flustered. He'll make mistakes. Will they probably get 1 or 2 on us? Maybe. But
don't break his ribs. I want him to stay in the whole game so we get a full so that litmus test is accurate.
Well,
if he's the better team.
I almost want to see the same thing happen where we get the Titans treatment. After 3 quarters, they throw in someone else because they're like, we're throwing in the white flag. If we can blow them out, then there's no questions about the AFC East. There's no questions about our conference. We're homers, but I'm really a realist, and I look at the schedule, and we've gone through our predictions for the season, and without question, they're going to make the playoffs. It's just what seed, how far are they going to go this time? They are waiting for a chance.
And isn't it so exciting that the Bills are, dare I say, the new Patriots of the AFC East, and now we're the hunted, and now we're the ones going down to South Florida, and they're like, okay, the big dogs are coming in, the big brother's coming in. We don't want to be little brother. Josh Allen's kicked our ass for 8 games in a row.
Some of these fans need some humble pie, though. They're like, bring on the Bills. We want Buffalo. Buffalo sucks. And there are some people, some experts, some pundits that they're calling an upset. 6 points, which means we'll lose by a touchdown or more. It's possible. We may have a bad game against them. Maybe because they're a division rival and they see us twice a year, they know a little bit about us and our tendencies. But, I mean, first time Dorsey's doing play calls and we've got Von Miller to put us over that edge. We were already owning them the last 7 games against them. So
I just think it's awesome that we're finally a team that's going down there and we're defending the right to own this division, and they're going to try to take it away from us. And that's why I think Bills and Dolphins fans can't wait for that game on Sunday.
Let's talk about predictions. So, what do you think? The Bills are 6-point favorites on Miami. Do you think that they, A, win, and B, cover the spread?
I think they do both.
Yeah. Yeah, so for the 3rd week in a row, will we be right, or will we move to 2-1? I say the Bills win 31-21. 31-21.
Okay, 31-21. I'm going Buffalo 38, Dolphins 16.
38-16. I always wonder with those odd numbers like 16 and 18. Are they doing 2 touchdowns with 2-point conversions? Are they doing a bunch of field goals? Or so that would be a touchdown and 3 field goals, which is totally possible. We keep them out of the red zone, and Sanders has to go in and kick it. Cool.
So we're saying 3-0.
Yeah.
Keeping the momentum train rolling down the tracks. And what would be a great way to start divisional play? And we need to start divisional play with a win, just like the Dolphins want to. Now the Dolphins, they would end up being 2-0 in the AFC East if they beat us. That would be a big deal for us to start 0-1 and them start 2-0. You would think the hype on them is good now. What would happen if they beat us and then they did that? And then the hype's going to be even bigger.
But I still won't sweat it. If somehow we lose by 3 or even 10, the Dolphins are much improved. They have a new coach and some new players that are really giving them an extra pep.
The Ravens are great,
Long season.
but they shit that win down their legs. And,
it was bad.
And again, Dolphins fans are going to listen to what I just said, and they're going to be like, you're just hating because you're a Bills homer. You're not going to give Tua respect. I already said I gave Tua respect for what happened in the fourth. But the Ravens have a great team, and they're well coached, but they weren't well coached in that fourth. And they did. And again, part of it, I think our rookies are better than theirs now. I could end up being wrong on that too, but I just feel like our team is built better than the Ravens defense, and they're not going to let what happened to the Ravens happen to them. I don't see it happening. And if it does, I'll eat my words, but I just don't see it happening.
Our predictions are the Bills win again. Surprise, surprise.
3-0.
I hope it's a good game, but a good game can mean a lot of different things. It could mean 41-7, or it could mean a field goal in the last second.
As long as there's a W on the left side of that ledger, it's a good game.
Yeah. So let's talk about other games this week, or last week. Brian Dable, 2-0.
Good job, Dable. Way to go, bud. You got to give him credit. You got to love to see it.
They do play the Cowboys this week, who are playing Cooper Rush because Dak Prescott is still out, and he will be for another 4 to 6 weeks.
According to Jerry Jones, he'll be back next week. But
what's funny is that was originally 6 to 8 weeks, and then he said, he'll be back within 4 weeks. And then news came out this week. It's more likely to be 4 to 6, optimistically. So, we'll see. I doubt it. Somebody in our league did drop him, and I immediately picked him up and threw him on my IR for fantasy.
Yeah, and someone in our league also decided to drop James Conner to pick up Dontrell Hilliard. Why? I don't know.
We have,
but he got him, and he already had the best roster in the league. So
it is a good.
Well,
roster.
That really just flipped the script, didn't it?
Yeah. So just from the top of my head, I've got Herbert. I went with Jefferson overall. So we've got 5th overall pick, Justin Jefferson. I've got McLaurin, Jalen Waddle. For running backs, I have Saquon Barkley. I've got Montgomery, and I've got Miles Sanders, and now I've got James Conner. And tight ends, I just traded away Bateman because I already have great players.
You just traded a wide receiver one just nonchalantly. Think about
because
that.
He's a wide receiver 4 on my team. Think about who I just named.
And for those that aren't familiar with fantasy, you have you have several different ways to pick up players. There's usually a waiver period traditionally where you have to wait for waivers to clear each week. In this league, it's
cutthroat.
A cutthroat in that you can add and drop at will.
Now, if your guy's playing and you don't want him anymore and someone's available, you can actually make the transaction, but it doesn't go into effect until the following Tuesday.
Makes things very interesting, like today, where all of a sudden James Conner gets picked up and 11 other people have the chance to get him, and it's literally who can hit the button on their phone or computer first.
And I just so happened to be letting my dogs out this morning, and my phone's in my hand, and I'm actually looking at running backs because I would say that was my weakest position because I've been using Sanders in the flex, and I'm like, well, if he gets hurt or he's in the same bye week as my other guys, I need someone else. And then,
I was on the way to your house in an Uber. And as it comes up on my phone, you saw it clearly right before I did. And as I tried to get it up, all of a sudden it said, "Pigskin Martin ads."
Yeah, that's our fantasy league name. I've been the commissioner.
Or Buffalo Bison's ads James Conner. I'm like,
so I dropped
as well as the other 10 players in the league. They all collectively said,
I know,
or 9.
So my team name has been for years on and off Buffalo Bisons, right? And I've got the Bills logo, but it's like my own design. I drafted Justin Jefferson early, and then I picked up Van Jefferson and put him on my IR spot. Excuse me. So when he was to come back, which is this week, I was going to change my team name possibly to the Jeffersons.
Who you calling crazy, Honky?
And then I'm like, I think I'm going to go back and get Nico Collins and drop Jefferson until maybe he does something. Yeah, he's a speedster. There's a lot of upside, but only owned in 5% of the leagues. He's less likely to have a demand than Nico. Grab Nico. That's why my phone was open. As soon as James Conner got dropped, I immediately dropped Nico Collins for James Conner. I'd say that's a hell of a trade.
Am I pissed at you? No, I'm not. Am I upset that I didn't get him? Yes, I am. What I like to say about fantasy football, all is fair in love, war, and fantasy football.
Yeah.
So nothing you can do about it. Good on you, man. I really hope you and I are playing for the championship.
Who are your big pickups for this week, or who do you think that people should be playing in fantasy?
All right, so a little fantasy football corner for you all, if you will. So here's what I'm looking at. Real quick, I want to start off with where I was right and where I was wrong on my fantasy football advice for last week. Because I know I'm not always going to be perfect, but I have been playing for a while, just like this gentleman next to me. And so we do feel like we've got some tidbits of information on a weekly basis for fantasy. So where I was wrong, Bengals defense. I did say that would be a nice little tasty streaming option against the Cowboys, who had a second-string quarterback in. I was wrong. In most leagues, half PPR, they put up 3 points. I was shocked. The whole game I was shocked. I couldn't believe how bad the Bengals once again looked, and I couldn't believe that
their O-line is awful. Burrow's going to get hurt again and lose another season.
So anyways, I'm sorry for anyone that took my advice on streaming the Bengals. I apologize. Where I got it right, I did say to stream LA. I thought they were going to have a bounce-back performance.
Chargers. Or Rams?
The Rams.
Okay.
I did think that the Rams were going to have a bounce-back against Atlanta, and they did. They put up 11 points despite almost pissing that win down their leg and letting Atlanta come back in the fourth, but still put up a solid number of points, fantasy speaking.
Yeah, there were a lot of blowouts by halftime, and then 2 of those games that were blowouts, they ended up losing. The Raiders lost and the Ravens lost.
Yep.
Games that they should have won.
Yeah.
And there were other ones that were close. I mean,
another wild
you did
Sunday
another
in the
parlay.
NFL. I'm 0-2 on parlays.
And it came down to the Vikings game and then the Patriots game.
And
right?
then who else? There was a third one I got wrong. Inevitably. Dude, parlays are so hard to do in the NFL.
Yeah, that's why the payout's pretty decent.
Yeah, there's a reason the payouts.
Because a lot of people get it wrong, so there's
Very
more money
tough.
in the pot.
Very tough. Go some quick either streaming options or just players to look out on those waiver wires for if you're playing fantasy. For quarterbacks, obviously Tua is a popular pickup right now if he's available in your leagues. Would I start him this week? No. That's not just being a homer. I just feel like going against a very stout and talented Bills defense, there might be some that are like, well, they're going to be without, some players in the secondary and they're starting rookies at cornerback. We still have Von Miller. We still have Gregory Rousseau. We still have Ed Oliver, Tim Settle. You name it, that are going to be making it awfully tough, I think, for Tua. So I would...
Jared Goff.
Yeah, that leads me to my next quarterback pickup, Goff. Now, if you were to put a gun to my head and say, who would you pick up if you had a roster spot available, Tua or Goff, for long term? I would say actually Goff. Goff has the better playoff schedule for fantasy, but either one's a great option. If you're in need of a quarterback or you want to stash for a quarterback 2 behind your starting quarterback, keep those two in mind.
Here's where I differ between that. We know what Goff is. Now, he hasn't had the weapons with the Lions much, but look what he did in L.A., and then Stafford comes in 1 year and wins them a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I think with Tua, there's still upside. We praised him, but we also question him. I mean, there's a lot of people that throw hate at him. There's still some upside.
Yes, as long as you have Hill and Waddle doing what they're doing, I agree. Yeah. As long as you have Waddle and Hill doing what they're doing, and you still have a solid defense for the Dolphins, Tua does have a higher ceiling.
But why we can even say that Goff is right there? Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Stud.
And you've got Swift he's thrown to, and Hawkinson he's thrown to, and now Shark, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Goff does have those games that make you just scratch your head, but I do feel like if he's more than serviceable, and he's going to have those weeks where you're just like, damn, why'd I start him? But I feel like he's also going to have weeks like he just had that is like there's validity in starting a guy like that.
Yeah.
As far as running backs to be looking at, Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier. That's a stash that could end up paying off in the second half of the season. By no means would I say start him on a regular basis yet, but if you've got room and you're weak at running back position and you're trying to look for a lottery ticket still on the waivers, I would definitely give him a consideration. And then also I feel like Patterson, like Cordell is great, but he didn't start out as a running back. He was converted and he runs very upright, and I feel like just if you watch the tape from Tyler Algier from college, He's so talented, and I think eventually their coaching staff's just going to have to let him become more involved.
Well, I mean, like you said, CPAT is like a wide receiver, running back, slasher. And, last year, what's funny is I had a family league, and my cousin just picked him up in like one of the later rounds. People were like, yo, this isn't 2019, 2018. Betterson ain't going to do anything. He went off. He had a great year.
He saved a lot of people's seasons.
Quite a bit. And now he's kind of a glorified wide receiver / running back, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to know where you can use him. But if you have PPR, half PPR, that's best for him. All right, so you've got Drake London. You've got Kyle Pitts, right? And who's Mariota going to throw to other than that or hand the ball off to? CPAT, right?
Yeah.
And Tyler.
Yeah. I think that down the line he could turn into a 3-down back and then also hopefully get some goal line touches. That's what you'd hope for from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, and Patterson's getting older anyway.
Yeah. And then another running back in deeper leagues to consider as a stash or a sneaky pickup, Jerick McKinnon, not only just especially in PPR formats. Again, he's another stash. He's been getting some red zone opportunities, so the coaching staff clearly trusts him enough to do that, to bring out Edwards-Helaire. And yeah, I mean, he's on one of the more high-powered teams in the AFC with an offense led by Patrick Mahomes. Might be something to consider. Yeah. And then wide receivers, Sterling Shepard is still available in a lot of leagues.
I've always liked him. Daniel Jones, again, he's kind of limited. We keep thinking, he's going to be this, and then whatever. They're 2-0. They may go 3-0 against the Cowboys, but maybe. I've always liked Shepard.
As long as he stays healthy, he's Mr. Consistent. And he's shown that so far in this young season. And then Devin Duvernay, I added him in a league.
Hey, he got points week 1 with that return.
And still,
And then I think he got banged up, didn't he?
He did get banged up. He's questionable going into this week, but he had a return touchdown, a kick return for a touchdown.
Was that this week or week 1? Okay, I'm mixing it up.
Yep. Okay. So that's what saved his fantasy output if you get points for that. Other than that, it would have been pretty pedestrian. But I feel like he's got a lot of promise, again, on a team that's got a lot of offensive potential throughout the season. Bateman's obviously their clear wide receiver 1. But if you are looking for some wide receiver help, Duvernay's not a bad pickup as well.
Yeah.
So any thoughts for you on fantasy this week?
I like what you said about Goff. I mean, he's not flashy, but, he's going to get you some points. It's sort of like Kirk Cousins in most weeks. I know he shit the bed on Monday night.
The whole team shit the bed, yeah.
He seems to be doing that. I mean, and obviously
2-10. 2-10.
Now 2-11.
2-11 on Monday nights.
Horrible. You like that?
I got 3 words for you. You like that?
Well, he didn't like it on Monday. Someone had a case of the Mondays.
Oh, man.
Uh-oh. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
Most of the running backs that you're going to be picking up, whether it's 8, 10, or 12-man league, there's so many running backs that are by committee now. You hardly have an RB1, and that's that. You've got other guys sucking out some of the rushes. I like Miles Sanders. He's having a great year. But you still have Gainwell. You still have some of these other guys. And then you've got people like Hurts stealing the goal line touchdown.
Yeah.
So
running back committee killed the fantasy star. Running back committee killed the fantasy star.
Yeah, I mean, I like your Sterling Shepard and your Devin Duvernay. There's other guys that you can pick up. Noah Brown is good. He's a young rookie who's been not necessarily on the fantasy radar for points, but for targets. And to me, that's important because you're going to miss some. Sometimes you're playing a defense where they're just going to defend very well, but you're going after them. Just like tight ends are so short right now. You get someone like Higbee or Everett, they're not a top 5, but in targets, yes, they are.
Yeah, Everett's been a surprise. I picked him up in my SDSU league, and I'm happy so far. I mean, that could change week by week with tight ends. They're so fickle, but yeah, Herbert's been looking his way a lot more than I thought he would.
Yeah, when you've got a younger
Keenan Allen being out helped. Now, once Keenan comes back, it's going to take a few.
Yeah, I know that, but that's where Everett suffered in the past with Seattle and the Rams, where he's just like that. He's a blocker who can catch, but they don't use the tight ends as much as some other teams. And the Chargers should be using them. I mean, they can go back to Antonio Gates.
He's a physical specimen. And he's Hunter got Henry. Good hands. So
yeah, but that's really it. I mean, defenses, when you're streaming those are going to be matchups. And you thought Cleveland was going to do something, right? You didn't you pick them up and then you dropped them for?
Yeah, no, I picked them up and I don't know why. That was horrible. I thought they were gonna go off against the Jets. They didn't do shit. So, but I picked up the Eagles now in your league because I think that was another thing I forgot to mention. Eagles, don't sleep on the Eagles defense. I picked them up in both my SDSU league and your league. I'm looking at that stretch. If you're streaming, so next 6 months.
6 months? The season's not even 6 months.
Next 6 weeks. Excuse me. Here's what it's looking like. They got Washington, they got Dallas, they got Pittsburgh, they got Houston over these next 6 weeks. I don't know. I'm going to take a chance on them. So we'll see.
I think the Eagles, they were a preseason favorite to make the Super Bowl. That might hold true. I mean, A.J. Brown made a huge difference. And when you've got young guys, you know,
Jalen Hurts
you've
looks
got
great
Devontae
so far.
Smith, like we mentioned, the running backs. I mean, Hurts is actually doing well, and you've got him as your starter in fantasy. I questioned that pick early on. I'm like, that's a late round flyer, and maybe borderline starter / one of the best backups like a Stafford or something.
Mm-hmm.
But he's flashy.
He's
so doing
far,
things that like
his legs too help. I mean, they're huge. His
he's
running ability for touchdowns.
He's what Trey Lance and Justin Fields tried to be or are trying to be, and it's impressive. So my brother, my oldest brother, is an Eagles fan. We grew up diehard Bills fans, but my brother had an NFC team as well, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with picking an NFC team. I don't want to speak for every Bills fan, but many of us tend to gravitate towards like the Packers. Yes, they've had a winning team with a great quarterback for like 30 plus years, and they've
just like someone like if the Bills didn't make it in, that you could still cheer for.
Yeah, and you know, you might not like Aaron Rodgers, you may love him. It's usually one end of the spectrum or the other, but they're the only fan base owned team, and they do well, and it's fun to root for someone on the other side of the Great Lakes.
Very similar fan bases, very diehard, cold weather, awesome old school college like stadiums and tailgating scenes. So I see that.
And they screw up in the playoffs a lot like the Bills have been, even when they're doing really well. You know, you got back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers, and then what did they do?
I mean,
what do they do?
Yeah, but when it comes to just comparing Rodgers and Allen over the last 2 years in the playoffs, there's no comparison.
No,
Allen's been
Rodgers,
Mr. Clutch, and Rodgers has been
I mean, look at the last 2 games last year. I think he threw 7, 8, 9 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. It was like the best postseason.
It's amazing.
Quarterback rating that you
no
could
one
get.
wanted to see it end. That was part of what was so heartbreaking.
All right, so we talked about last week's game against the Titans. It was a blowout. We talked about Miami and our predictions. We both predict the Bills are going to win again. Then we talked about fantasy.
What a matchup. I cannot wait.
Yeah. So are there any other matchups that you want to look at?
I mean, just because I'm a Patriots hater, I'm going to be following the Patriots going against the Ravens. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the Ravens bounce back. They're clearly going to be pissed that they just lost to another AFC East team in heartbreaking fashion. So I'm looking forward to watching that. I hope that Bill Belichick and the Ravens and the Patriots get their ass kicked by the Ravens.
If you've got Lamar Jackson rushing for 119 yards and you're losing, now a lot of that has to do with the defense, you know, and them not getting the ball back. But
that game was
holy
that
cow.
I'm still having trouble getting over that Ravens-Dolphins game because for 3 quarters the Ravens clearly looked like the better team.
And that would change the tune. That would change the points for this week.
I mean,
2-0 versus 2-0.
In that game, Lamar was throwing it where he wanted to. He was running where he wanted to. The Dolphins secondary looked lost in the first half. But man, oh man, like, which is why the NFL can be so popular. You just never know. And in that fourth quarter, all of a sudden the momentum switched and it was game over. But
I'm really hoping that Gabriel Davis is back because he's from Florida. He plays well in the state.
Oh, it'd be huge to get him back.
The thing is, we saw some practice footage from Thursday. Yeah, he came up a little light on it, and you noticed it first because I was like, soon he ran 3 or 4 routes, and I'm like, during the media session, I'm like, yeah, he's playing this weekend. And then the next one, he came back, and then he's kind of just like gimping off, and I'm like, oh.
You can tell he is not comfortable yet with putting all the pressure on.
And the Bills usually err on the side of caution with that, so they may sit him out another week. I know it's a division rival, but I kind of want to see Shakir get more usage. Maybe Kumaro does something again. Maybe somebody else steps up. Maybe Crowder and McKenzie can be used better. We'll see.
If it's any peace of mind for Bills Mafia, I mean, we already know that if Dane Davis doesn't go, we don't have to worry that much because we do know that, like what you just said, someone can step in. But
yeah, and our D-line.
In a perfect world, of course, we want Davis to be healthy with Diggs. It's a 1-2 punch. It's lethal. It's poisonous. It's pick your poison. You name it.
I think Von Miller gets back on the stat sheet with a sack or two. I think Greg Rousseau needs to keep going. That's it. James Cook, maybe he keeps getting utilized. Maybe they throw some more screen passes to him and has less on the handoffs. I don't think they need to use him between the tackles almost ever. That's what Moss is for. Even Singletary, he's been doing well right inside the guard and tackle. I think Cook is good on the outside. Open speed, and that's what we've been missing. If you have questions, leave them in the comments, and we will try to highlight those. We didn't really get much this week other than our buddy Nathan, who's talking about 13 seconds, who's talking about being bored.
Nathan is just an overall menace to society. He's
the
a
guy.
heckler.
He's a Seahawks fan, and he's talking all this smack, and I'm like, yeah, you know what?
Loves to talk shit about us, loving Josh Allen.
Week 1, I said, yeah, your quarterback is Geno Smith, and we have Josh Allen. And then Geno Smith wins.
Look
and
great.
Wilson loses, and I'm like, damn. Not so hot the second week, but, speaking of Nathan, he's the one who got us in the sports cards again.
He did.
And our 2 cards we're featuring today, this one right here, is Intergalactic Josh Allen. It's a score. It's a 9 out of 10. It's a nice card.
Show the holographic.
Oh, yeah. So it changes. I'll do this close up. So it changes from red to white, and it's really cool. Now, what do you have on your side there, buddy?
On this side, we got ourselves a 2018 rookie Donruss Optic, rated rookie. And this one is the red-yellow insert.
Yep,
so
it's the variant.
Colors.
And this one, so the Optic is worth more than the regular Donruss rookie, the rated rookie. This one is Optic, and it's a variant from that Optic, so it's probably worth $500, $600, $700. Somebody wants it. Give me a comment.
It's a beautiful. I love the rated rookies, and it's just classic. Like, it looks old school, like with the photo that was taken with him holding the football. That's one of the reasons I like the rated rookies of really any football player, but. Obviously, we love it. That is Josh Allen.
Whoever leaves the most insightful comment or asks the best question, I will send a Josh Allen card. I have so many. Maybe a base card, maybe a numbered card if I have more than one. So
you don't know which one you're going to get.
Leave a good comment. If you're sharing it, maybe I'll even send you 2. If I pick your comment and you shared it.
Spread the love. Spread the Josh Allen love. I love you, Josh Allen.
This has been... I love
you, Josh Allen.
This has been... The House That Allen Built, Week 3. Again, my name is Scott Kinmartin.
And I'm Greg Vollmer. Is it Sunday yet?
Man.
Damn.
All right, Sunday.
Excited.
10 a.m. our time, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
On CBS, the Bills will play the Dolphins as 6-point favorites. I hope they win by more.
And as always, Bills Mafia that are traveling to South Florida. Tailgate your asses off. Break some tables responsibly. Pound that Labatt's. And as always, take a few hydration breaks.
And until next time, go Bills!
Let's go
Buffalo! Another good one, buddy.
Boom.
All right.
Who's gonna win Sunday? Is it gonna be this guy or is it gonna be this guy? I don't know. We'll see. It's gonna be a battle in South Florida.
It's gonna be Josh Allen.
Boom.
I love you, Josh Allen! Got some Bills shoes. How about you? Do you have yours? Oh, you do. Let's touch them. Come on, can you get it?
Oh!
Can you get yours up here?
Oh! I pulled a hammy. Oh! I just pulled a hammy. I won't be doing next week's podcast. I'm out.
All right, you can do it from your house. All right.
Check. Ow now brown cow. The arsonist had oddly shaped feet.
Peter, penis.
Pirate hooker. You are a
pepper.
pirate hooker. Go back to your home on Thor Island.
Nailed it. All right. You gonna take a sip before we get started? What happened to our cheers?
Okay. All right, here we go. You know what I say about fantasy football? All is love. And
say it again.
rewind.
And let's go Buffalo. Hey,
Hey,
let's go Buffalo.
let's go Buffalo.
Let's go Buffalo.
Let's go Buffalo.
We're gonna mess it
The
up
Bills
again.
make you wanna.
shout.
Woo! Dude, I don't know if I can make it to the fridge.
Holy shit.
Ugh.
I don't think you
These
can.
NAs are
Fucking
hitting me.
wasted, man.
NAs are hitting me like something fierce.
All right, so
Ladies and gentlemen.
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
Yeah, I felt like it was kind of your fake
Let's get
radio
ready
voice.
for some Sunday! Okay.
All right.